complex numbers. So the first example talks about additive inverses. Write this down. Find the additive inverse of -2 plus 5i. You should know that the definition of additive inverses are two numbers that when you add them together, you end up with 0. So my answer for the additive inverse of -2 plus 5i would be 2 minus 5i.
Switch the signs.
Right, because when you add those two together, you end up with 0. So what's the additive inverse of 5i?
-5.
Negative 5i. What's the additive inverse of 1 minus 3i?
-1 plus 3i.
Negative 1 plus 3i. So you have to end up with 0. Write down the next example. You're simplifying, you're adding and subtracting two complex numbers. First step is to get rid of parentheses and then just combine like terms. Alright, so in this first one, you can pretty much just take the parentheses out of it. It's just an addition problem. Okay, because the addition is going to affect this. So when I combine 5 plus -2, I end up with 3. When I combine 7i plus 6i, I end up with 13i. Make sure you write your answer in standard form. A plus bi. Yeah. So far. Next one. This is where you got to be careful. When you're subtracting, make sure you distribute the negative. So this becomes 8 minus 2, which is 6, and 3i minus 4i is -1i. Again, make sure your answer is in standard form. So 6 minus I is it.
And those are two different problems?
Two separate problems. Okay. Next example, multiplication. Simplify. 5i times a -4i. Multiply the coefficients. 5 times -4 is -20. I times I is I squared. Everybody understand that first step? Okay. We know from when we did the first part of this section that I squared is the same thing as -1. Remember, you need to make sure you memorize those first 4 i's. If you know the first 4, you're okay. And -20 times -1 comes out to be +20. So if you have I to any power, it is not simplified. If you have I in the answer, you're good. All right, here, what method do we use?
FOIL.
FOIL. And that's what I did here. 24 minus 18i minus 20i plus 15i squared.
So you just factor in.
FOIL.
Oh, this is a separate problem.
This is a separate problem. Yeah. I combine the middle two terms because they're like terms to get -38i. Simplified 15i squared to -15, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I squared is -1. 24 minus 15 is 9, minus 38i is your answer. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
And the last example, back to solving. We've done a couple methods so far. We've done factoring method, square root property, and graphing. Okay, I told you if you were missing that b term, then it's probably best to use the square root property, which I did here. Just get x by itself. Subtract 100 from both sides. 4x squared equals -100. Divide by 4. You get -25. Take the square root of both sides. Plus minus square root -25. What's the square root of -25? 5i. Whenever
So
you
it's
take
always-
the square root of a negative number, you end up with something I. Yeah.
It's always going to be plus negative.
Plus minus when you take the square root, because whether you plug a positive in or a negative in, you get that answer when you square it. Over here, same thing. Subtract 2 from both sides. Divide by 8. You end up with plus minus 1/2, because the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. And since it was a negative, you have to bring the I out. Yes, ma'am.
How come your answer didn't come out as 5i square root 5?
5, because the square root of 25 is just 5.
Oh, yeah. So